Welcome yet to another episode of the Front Porch Anarchast. This is actually going to be episode 4. Lots of things happening here on the homestead, and I don't know if it's just a break in the weather or what, but I've been feeling really creative here the last couple of days. Maybe it was a good visit with Jennifer and the kids. I don't know. One way or the other. Feeling pretty creative. Got a lot to say. But in this episode, I'm going to try to keep it on topic. Just a couple of different topics here that I'd like to talk about. In this episode, I'd like to talk about a guy who is being harassed over the grass or weeds, however you want to look at it, in his yard. I'm going to talk a little bit about an IPA that I found. Yes, that sounds kind of weird, but hey, it's a topic that's important to me. It's an IPA that I found. It's called Rockhound IPA, and it's from the Lost 40 Brewing, and that's a brewer out of Little Rock, Arkansas. I'm also going to talk a little bit about a lockbox and a bug out bag, or a get home bag, for my car, and then talk a little bit about some homestead projects that I've been working on. In fact, I think I'll just start out with the homestead projects. Since I'm sitting here on the front porch, you can undoubtedly hear the bugs and the birds, and you're probably going to be able to hear the dogs because they just all threw a fit and wanted to go in the cabin, so they're inside. Not really sure why. Perfect, pretty day, but they're all in crates inside the cabin because that's where they wanted to be today. So they're in there bumping around and carrying on. And not a one of them will get out of the crate when I open the doors. So that's where they are. Starting here with some homestead projects. A couple of things that I really need to get done after reevaluating some of the things that would really make life a little more easy here, especially for Jennifer. I need to first and foremost work on our toilet facilities. This week, since it's been cooler, the electricity, air conditioning issue doesn't seem to be such a problem. So I think I'll focus instead today on upgrading our toilet facilities. Now, I'm going to probably give you too much information here, but since we don't have running water as such, like we're not connected to an unending supply of water, we have to catch what we use. And in the middle of the winter, or in the middle of the summertime, it's kind of hard to catch any water. So we can't use a toilet that flushes. It just doesn't make any sense to, flush a liter or 2 liters of water down the drain, literally, every time that we need to use the toilet. So, most of the time if I have to, I don't really know how to say this, but anyway, most of the time just find a tree. If it's a situation where you need to sit down, we do have a sawdust toilet. Sounds kind of weird and icky to begin with, but once you get used to it, it's really not that bad. Now, it does get bad in the summertime because of bugs. So you can't just leave the sawdust toilet set up and open, or you will attract, most of the time it's just little like fruit flies. So I'm working on a different system for that right now, and I think I've got that taken care of with a gasket and a lid for the bucket when it's not in use. However, it's still inside the cabin, so it's not in the bedroom. It's on the other side. So that's got to come out, but in order for it to come out, I need to create some kind of a building, and I'm going to have to do that on a shoestring budget. So it's going to have to be made out of reclaimed lumber and the such. I've got an idea for how to kind of make a hybrid system. So it's not really an outhouse with with something that we have to dig out every now and then, because then we'd still have the problem with the bugs. We still have a problem with the smell. And talk about an ick factor. If you've ever used an outhouse, there is a definite ick factor going on there. So I think I've come up with an idea for that. Not really a flush system, not really an outhouse, and kind of more along the lines of a sawdust toilet that's a whole lot nicer. That's one of the projects that I have to work on, and then we get back to that aforementioned generator. It's still just sitting there, and one of the reasons I haven't started working on it, well, the main reason is I have all the parts to make it go again. I think it's just getting them back together in the right order and making sure that there's no leaks. That's going to be an issue because it runs off of propane, and of course the propane is under pressure, and I don't have very good luck with making connections that don't leak. So, but we do need an effective way to produce electricity. So that generator is a pretty decent way. And I found a place that'll refill a 30-pound propane bottle for just under $13. Can't complain about that because it'll run the generator for, I don't know, 5.5 hours, something like that. And with a 50 amp battery charger, I can charge our battery. I could fully charge it in an hour, 2 hours. So it'd be like $6 a day that we run it, and we wouldn't have to run it every day. So that'd be a really cost-effective way, considering that I already have the parts to get it going, and I have a full tank of propane. Right now, our overall goal would be to produce enough electricity to run a refrigerator, to run our lights, run an air conditioner, and a washing machine. And that's going to take a generator to do that, and I think our generator is big enough it would do that. But I just saw an ad for a solar panel setup at Harbor Freight, and they used to offer some that were like 45 watts, and 45 watts just isn't really going to cut it for what we need. A full charge, getting a 35 amp hour battery charged up on 45 watts takes like 2 days of full sunshine. So, I mean, that would be okay if all we were going to do is run lights off of it, but we also want to run the fan off of it. So, I kind of need more than that. So now I see that they've started offering a 100 watt setup, which is, more than twice of what that 45 watt is. And this kit setup, whatever you want to call it, it's got the panels. It has everything that you need to hook the panels up to a battery. And that would keep our lights and our fan going for, well, it'd go for quite a while. And since I'm basically just living here for 3 days out of the week and then just back and forth on the days that I work, it would basically give it 4 days to charge the battery. Now we have our battery is like 110 or 120 amp hours, so that's like 3 times a 35 amp hour battery. So it would take like 3 days for this solar setup at full sun to charge this battery, which is just about perfect for what we're doing now. It would be really great that if for the 3 days that I'm working, I don't have to deal with charging the batteries at all. But again, that's only going to run our lights and our fan. And for now, that's great. In the future, though, we're going to want to run that air conditioner, a washing machine, and a refrigerator. So we still have to focus on getting a generator going. I did see a really nice one that Harbor Freight had to offer for like $529, $599. And eventually I'd love to go with that, but right now the money just isn't there for us to do that. So no washing machine for us for right now. We'll have to keep going to the laundromat. Now, it does cost us like $10 every time we go to the laundromat, and we go once a week. So, well, I guess it costs a little more than $10, and then you have to figure in the drive to the laundromat. But um, $10 a week uh, averages out to about $45 a month. Uh, 10, 12 months, and we could buy a generator, or the generator could pay for itself in a year. Of course, we'd have to buy fuel for it, so that would increase the cost a little bit, take a little longer for it to pay itself off. But in the long run, if you cut out the fuel that it would take to drive back and forth to the laundromat, it'd take about a year, and that's something that's really appealing to me. But that solar panel setup for right now, I mean, they're offering it for $149, and $149, and I don't have to worry about charging the battery so that we have lights and a fan. I think I want to jump all over that one. And then, especially if I can get the old generator fired up right now, because that's just quick, easy fix. I still need to get a 50 amp battery charger though. The one I have, I don't think it works anymore. So those are the two homestead projects that I really need to work on today. Something else I've been working on here at the homestead is donor rewards, and these are rewards that we're offering to people who can donate uh, anything to us. Actually, um, we've been offering T-shirts, which I'm not the most artistic person. T-shirts work very well for me because they're very forgiving. I get to make a stencil, and then after I get the stencil exactly the way I want it, then I can print the T-shirt really quickly, and that's something I can do without electricity. Uh, of course, I still have to go into town to send these T-shirts off, but it's pretty lucrative. I go in; it can be lucrative if we could get the T-shirt business off the ground. It would be lucrative because I do go into town every now and then. Uh, I have to buy stuff even on the 3 days that I'm off, and then the other 4 days out of the week I have to travel back and forth into town anyway. So it's really not a big deal to stop somewhere and ship these things off. Another thing that I've been toying around with is the idea of some jewelry made out of some of the dead wood that we find here on the homestead. I don't like to cut green trees. We do have some green trees that are going to have to come down. Um, that's in the future. So for right now, we use dead trees for for whatever reason we need wood for. Most of that goes into landscaping and into wood for the stove for the wintertime. And since that's what we have for a heat source. Um, so we're cutting down dead trees anyway, and there's all sorts of stuff that you'll have a little bit left over here, or something that you really don't know if it's good enough to burn, or if you want to mess with trying to burn it, or sometimes just really pretty wood and you don't want to lose it. You don't want to just burn it all up. So, been toying around with that idea of making some pendants or something to put on a necklace. And last night I finally got around to doing some of that. So I did make one necklace. It's rough and it's thick and it's not all that pretty, but I've got a few more of those already in the works. They're in production as we speak. And I'm also working on a Front Porch Anarchast logo stencil. Nothing really fancy, but I'm hoping to get it out, make it public pretty soon, and just stencil it on some things, maybe offer those things for sale. It's very the Anarchast part, the podcast part is very low key. It's more the anarchy symbol that if you've looked at the Facebook page, which undoubtedly you have if you're listening to this. It's just that just the anarchy symbol with an AK-47 in the center of it, and with the new twist on it is just a little antenna on the top of the A with like radio signals coming out of it, broadcast signal, whatever you want to call it. Again, that part's pretty low key, and hoping to stencil that on some things, maybe burn it into some wood. I don't know. Something you could just hang on your front porch, and again, it would just be low key. If somebody was looking, they might notice what's going on. Maybe it's a way to identify an anarchist, and maybe if your town gets invaded by a bunch of anarchists who are protesting a G20 summit or something, maybe they'll see the anarchy symbol and pass you on by. I don't know. I wouldn't count on that though. That seems like kind of a stretch, but anyway. Um, so those are the projects I've been working on here on the homestead. Um, One of the things I ran across when I went into town was an article about a guy who has come under attack by the people in his neighborhood for having weeds in his yard. Um, and I find this utterly amazing. Now, I have lived in town, and I understand that there are rules, and your neighbors want your grass to be the same height as their grass, and I tried to get along like that. And when my neighbors would mow their yard, I would mow mine, and it was nice. You drive home, everybody gets home at 5:30 in the afternoon, and everybody pulls into their garages at 5:30 in the afternoon, and their garage doors all go up at 5:30 in the afternoon, and they all have nice clean garages, and cars pull in, and then the garage door shuts behind them, and then making all of the houses look just alike, and no kids playing in the front yard because there's nothing to play on because toys and such, those are very frowned upon because it gives a sense of individuality, and we all want these houses to look just alike, and you can only have one tree in your front yard, and don't even think about growing a garden in your front yard, or maybe not even your backyard. um, yeah, I hated that. We did that for about a year and we were done. Now we did live in some other places. That place had a homeowners association, and the fees were very low. But the idea is that we entered into a contract with basically all of our neighbors that we would have our property look just like everybody else's, and somehow this is supposed to increase everybody's, um, or at least maintain everybody's property values, and nobody gets offended. Um, so, like I said, yeah, that only lasted for about a year. We had lived in a homeowners association before, and that was in a townhouse, which was even more restrictive than living in just a single family home. The townhouse, it was dictated to us what we could even put on our front door, what color our front door could be. Um, Whether or not you could have a welcome mat, what kind of plants you could have in the front, if you could have any furniture on your front porch or patio, what you could have on the back porch or patio, or where we lived it was called a lanai. Um, yeah, it was pretty restrictive as well, and there was actually people who drove around enforcing that. And for a short time, I was on a board that attempted to control that kind of thing, but I I made it about a week before I realized that everybody on that was just a bunch of Nazis and wanted to control what all their neighbors were doing. So I quickly resigned from that. Um, so here I am right now. I'm contemplating putting an outhouse out here because I want to. And this guy is getting attacked because his yard has grown up to, I think they said, 52 inches now in some places, a little over 4 feet. Now, I don't remember where this place was, and I'll try to post that. I'll try to put up some more information in the video that's going to accompany this podcast. When I put this on Facebook, I have to put some kind of video with it, or I can't upload it. I can't just upload an MP3. So I'll do that, and in case you want to look it up. But you can pretty much just Google homeowner weeds and sided. That'll pretty much pull it up. Actually, I think that's how I found it, was homeowner sided lawn. That's what it was, homeowner sided lawn, and it popped up. And this was a very recent, and it's something that he's been, something that the city has been fighting with him for a while. The neighbors have been fighting with him for a while. They've cited him numerous times for having the lawn that's grown up. Evidently, they have an ordinance that prohibits grass in the town there from being over 12 inches. I don't even understand that. Who gave these people the authority to decide how tall your grass can be? Um, I'll get more into that later, but yeah, I just don't even understand that. They quoted one of his neighbors saying that the guy just wants to be left alone. He's apparently not disabled. He has a job. He just doesn't want to mow his yard, and it's his yard. I don't know why he has to mow it. The city officials are talking about how it's a fire hazard and how it's a health issue, and his neighbors are talking about how everybody stops and everybody that travels down that road stops and looks at it in amazement, and they all take pictures of it as they go through because they just can't believe that it's grown, that there's a lawn that's grown up like that. You know, surely these people have something better to do. And somebody in the article was saying that their that the value of their home has gone down $10,000 because this guy's yard is grown up. Now, I seriously doubt that. And, if it were me and I was living next door to the guy and I didn't want to see his lawn all grown up like that, pop a privacy fence up. I don't have to see it. I mean, that's it. I'm done. Uh, I have to drive by it. I have to drive by it. I have to walk by smokers who are smoking. I don't like that. And I'd argue that the person who's smoking is actually doing me some damage um, by me having to breathe the chemicals that they're blowing out of their lungs and that are coming out of the cigarette, where this guy is causing them no issues. You might argue, hey, there could be mice living in there, and then the mice are going to come out and they're going to go to somebody else's house. I'm not really sure. If he's not buying the mice and turning them loose in there, I'm not really sure how he's responsible for wildlife. Driving down the road, deer jumps out in front of you. The state's sure not going to pay uh, for your totaled car or or any injuries that occur from that. If you're walking in a state park, get bit by a snake, the state's not on the hook for that. So, not really sure how he's causing anybody any issues, and that's the only health issue I can think of, because how is a grown-up lawn actually causing you any health issues? Is it causing you to have some kind of allergies? Maybe, I guess it could be. What if he had something over there that was hypoallergenic and it was grown up? Would that be okay? I'm not really sure, but sounds to me pretty weak. It just sounds like they want to see him conform, and apparently he doesn't want to conform. I'm not really sure how he's obligated to any of these people. It sounds, they made no mention of an HOA, so it sounds like he hasn't entered into any kind of contractual agreement with any of his neighbors. It looks like the state, in this case, the state is a municipality, and the municipality somehow or another believes it has the authority to force this man into cutting his lawn, and if he won't cut it, then they will fine him. And I'm assuming if he doesn't fine it, well, they've already said that they're looking into garnishing his wages. So where do they go from there? What if they're taking his money? He's still not mowing his lawn. Do they get some kind of judgment where they go in and they do it? How is that right? It's his lawn. Let the man do what he wants to on his lawn. You don't like it, don't look at it. You don't like living near it, move somewhere else. Um, I don't understand why his neighbors think they have the authority to force him to do anything about this. And once they realized they didn't have actual authority to do it, like they couldn't force him to do it, then they moved on to the city to use the city's authority. Now, I'm not sure why they think that the city would have any more authority than they do, since the city is just made up of a group of people just like them. So, where does the city get their authority? And that's kind of a rhetorical question because I have an answer for that. The city gets its authority at the business end of a gun. Uh, that's just that plain and simple. They have a monopoly on the use of force in that particular jurisdiction, and that's what they will end up using, is that they will force this man just sheer through sheer force, and this lawn will get cut. It doesn't matter if they do it or if they force him out of there. Maybe they end up taking so much of his money that he can't afford to live there anymore, and then the city takes it over, and then the city sells it, or maybe he sells it just to get out of it. One way or another, though, the municipality is going to win in this, and they really shouldn't. I'm not. I, I I don't understand the whole authority thing. I mean, not coming from a municipality, I can only see a few legitimate forms of authority. Um, Parents or family, I understand that they act as governments um, for people, especially for youngsters. But at some point, the youngster declares its it emancipates itself from the family, um, and really is no longer beholden to that government. Um, and I could see where you would be uh, governed in other voluntary relationships. You may always decide that you want to be governed by what your parents say or what your parents think, or maybe it's maybe you just take under advisement what they have to say, and that's how you govern your behavior. Um, and there's other voluntary relationships as well, like the HOAs that I mentioned earlier. If you want to live in one of those, that's fine. Go sign your name to it, and then you are obligated to follow those rules. And at whatever point you don't want to go along with those rules, you can do just like I did and sell your place. Um, and guess what? You're out of that contract, no longer a member of that particular authority. Um, there's other contractual relationships as well. Like you may be in business with somebody. You guys may have a contract where that governs your behavior as well as the other partner's behavior. Maybe you're in business. Maybe you're buying something from somebody, like you're buying a house. Of course, there's a contract that just governs that transaction, uh, tells what your behavior is going to be, what behavior the seller is going to make, or the buyer, whichever party you want. Um, yeah, of course, that's a form of government as well. And then everybody that works, well, we have a contractual agreement, even if it's explicitly not called that, with our employer. Most people who work like I do in a right to work state, uh, we have a an agreement with our employer that we actually don't have an agreement. So I can go to work tomorrow and they can tell me that they're no longer going to employ me, and then I'm looking for a new job. Or I can call in right now if I wanted to. Well, if I could get a if I could get a cell signal, I'd call in now and tell them I'm not coming back, and that would be the end of it. I don't have to go back. Now, as long as I am working for them, there's a set of rules that we both agree on. One is that I'm going to do what they say and how they say it, Uh, and the other is that they are going to pay me for the time that I am there doing what they say and doing it the way they tell me to. If I don't like doing whatever it is that they tell me to do, then I can, as I said earlier, I can just bail out and I'm done. Try that with that municipality. You can't just, or with a municipality, you can't just bail out. You can move, I guess, to a different city, and then guess what? You're stuck with the same rules. Um, no matter where you live in the U.S., you're going to be governed by a group of people, and it's not necessarily voluntary. Which one? Yeah, that I guess you could argue that you get to pick which one that you're ruled by. But unless there's an option to opt out of it, then it's not really voluntary. It's just you're telling me that I'm stuck with it, and I can't get out of it. Um, Now this is the point where people tell me to move to Somalia, but hey, is that really realistic? And guess what? You may think they don't have any kind of rules over there, but you get there, somebody has claimed authority over every single person that lives there, just like they have here in the U.S. So yeah, that's a no starter for an argument with me. Um, Now I found a funny quote while I was going through some Facebook stuff, and this was actually from a gun group, and it comes from a man who I've had, I've kind of had some Facebook discussions with the guy. He seems a really intelligent man. However, he's obsessed with the idea that the state has authority for whatever reason. We need this authority. Can't live without the state. And I keep using the word state. That it's just the state is when a group of people claim jurisdiction over a certain geographical area. Um, they claim the ability to rule over the people in that geographical uh, area. So don't think I mean like the state of Arkansas. Um, that's state with a big S or a capital S, and what I'm talking about is state with a lowercase s. So he's a believer in the state. Have to have a federal government, have to have a state government, have to have local governments, government, rah, rah, rah. Right now he's upset because the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission has found another way around. Um, all right, I'm going to just have to explain this a little bit. The Arkansas Game and Fish Commission, they were sued or taken to task, however you want to say it. It went to court. Um, some wildlife officer, whatever you want to call them, game warden, I think maybe. Um, anyway, it's been a long-standing tradition here in Arkansas that if a game warden pulls you over or approaches you, that they can go through all of your stuff. They don't need a search warrant. They can look for anything they want to, anytime they want to. And I've even heard of instances where the police actually want to search somebody and they can't because they have to get a warrant, so they end up getting a game warden involved so that they can go through their stuff. Don't ask me to cite this. This was years ago that I'm hearing these stories. Um, so anyway, this recent court case, a guy was approached by game wardens and they searched his stuff. They found something, and anyway, he appealed on the grounds that it was a warrantless search, and I guess he found a way, or he found a judge that agreed with him, and the judge issued an injunction to keep the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission from doing these warrantless searches. So now, this guy in this group, he posted uh, a permit that you need if you're going to a wildlife management area, if I've got this straight. And on this permit, it specifically states that while you are on this wildlife management area, you voluntarily agree that these Game and Fish Commission um, agents or people who work for the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission can search your effects. They can search your body. They can search through anything that you have. and all in the um, all because they're supposedly keeping the wildlife safe and managing wildlife. So he's mad that they've done this because he sees it as a way that they've circumvented the judge's ruling, and he's all mad about that. And he finds out um, that the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission has been given the authority to operate, that the state of Arkansas, big S, has granted this authority for the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission to exist and to operate. But the state of Arkansas didn't uh, give any way, didn't create a way to hold the Game and Fish Commission accountable by the state government or by the voters. Um, so evidently they've just pretty much been given free reign. I don't know if that was by design or if it was, an error, but anyway, that's how it appears. I'm going to try to read to you what he ended up writing. I made a comment. No, he just made a comment, and somebody else was responding to it and said that that they heard that that the Game and Fish Commission have always had this authority. So here's his quote, his response. Quote, "All that authority crap is nothing more than a lie that's been perpetuated down through the generation till it became the truth." End quote. Now, I couldn't help but laugh when I read that, because here's this avowed statist. Now, he's not for big government, and he's not for socialized programs and that kind of thing, what he would consider socialized programs. But he's fine with socialized programs like military and licensing boards and that kind of thing. He's fine with that. He doesn't like it when they mess with his guns, but uh, he's fine with police, and he's fine with paying state legislators $40,000 a year, which is what legislators here in Arkansas get paid. He's fine with stealing money from me to pay those guys their $40,000 a year. I imagine there's other things that he's fine with too, but he goes and says that all that authority crap is nothing more than a lie that's been perpetuated down through the generations till it became the truth. So, seeing the irony there, I had to point it out. And I don't remember exactly what I said, but I said, that I think that's funny that he would say that, because in actuality, the same could be said for the state in general. Um, and he didn't really like that when I responded with that, especially since we've had a few discussions that, border on that, just kind of touch that topic a little bit. And he responded, all he responded with was a roll over then. I'm not really sure what he meant by that, and I asked for some clarification. Maybe he's sent some clarification since I was last online. Um, yeah, but anyway, if he says anything else about it, I have some more things to tell him about it. Um, the fact is, nobody gave the state authority over me. The state claimed it for themselves. And the way they keep that authority over me is that they point loaded guns at me. And, they threaten to either shoot me or lock me in a cage if I don't comply with their authority. So that's why I do it. Um, it's pretty much as simple as that. I wouldn't choose uh, to work one day a week uh, just to give them money. They, about a quarter of my income goes straight for income taxes. And then you want to figure in all the other taxes that they take from me, and Social Security, whatever. And when it's all said and done, after sales taxes and the whole 9 yards, I get to keep, they allow me to keep 50% or so of what I actually earn. I'm not sure how that's being free if, you know, they they're basically enslaving me for 50% of the time that I work. Maybe I can find a way around that. I'm hoping. Um, okay, so I've beat that horse to death. Maybe on a lighter subject, maybe not. I don't know. I don't know how you feel about beer, but I found this IPA. I'm a fan of IPAs, which that, if you don't know, that stands for India Pale Ale. This particular one is called Rockhound IPA, and it's brewed by Lost 40 Brewing, and that's out of Little Rock here in the natural state. What do I think about it? Blah. It really wasn't that good. They should really probably just try again with that. Um, it was only 6.2% or something, and to only be 6.2%, it just didn't. I don't know. It should have been a little more refreshing at 6.2%, but it seemed kind of heavy, if that's even a way to describe beer. But just didn't really do much for me, and it seemed a little on the flat side. And I don't know if that has something, if they had any control over that, or if it was maybe because it was in a can, or um, I don't know. But I've drank a lot of IPAs. This wasn't the worst IPA I've ever had, but it's certainly down there toward the bottom of my list of IPAs that I would drink again. And it didn't help that it was significantly overpriced. Something of that quality, I would have expected to run like, I don't know, $7.50 for a 6-pack. Now, I'm sure the location of where I bought it had something to do with it. I ended up paying $9.75 for the 6-pack, but it was the place I had to buy it was in the middle of nowhere. If you're listening to this and you're not from Arkansas, um, Arkansas is counties decide whether or not they sell alcohol. So we have dry counties and wet counties, and I live in a dry county, and I'm surrounded on both sides by dry county. No, maybe the county to the north is not dry, but it's so far that it's like it's not even feasible to go there. Um, but since I was on the way to my mom's house to see Jennifer and the kids, spend the night there, I took a little detour and ended up at a place called Center Ridge, and it's just a um, concrete block building in the middle of nowhere. You should check it out sometimes. It's got really small windows with bars on the windows because when they close it up at night, I guess they have to worry about people breaking in because it's in the middle of nowhere. Um, so I really can't complain about the price, just the fact that it was there. Uh, yeah, that's a squirrel, and that squirrel's about to get eradicated. It's chewing on the cabin, and I've already went out there once, but he was too quick for me. I don't relish the thought of having to dispatch him, but I can't let him chew into the cabin either. And he's not really scared of us anymore, but he was up the tree too fast for me to do anything about it. Um, anyway, yeah, I can't complain. I actually found the beer, so I can't complain really about the price, but I can complain about the beer. It wasn't really that good. It won't be something I'm drinking again. And yeah, that was my lightheartedness for the day. Sorry to ruin it there by talking about eradicating the squirrel. Another thing I promised to talk about was the lockbox and the bug out bag for the car. It's not really going to be a bug out bag, it's going to be more of a get home bag. The lockbox I need so that I can secure my valuables in the car while I'm away from it. So I had a Mustang one time. It was a hatchback, and there was really no place to keep uh, valuables in it that couldn't be seen. So in the hatch, as far under the spoiler as I could get. Um, I bolted a just like a little cash box, a locking cash box to the floor of the hatch, and that's where I secured the valuables. Um, and I'm doing something like that for the Explorer too. Now this lockbox isn't much, and it will be easily defeated, I'm sure. But the point, the thing I'm worried most about is just somebody smashing a window and grabbing something that they can see. So for starters, it's going to be in a spot that they won't be able to see. Secondly, even if they do find it, it's going to be bolted down, and it's, I mean, it's not the toughest box, but it'll definitely slow a person down. The professional thief, they're going to get it, and of course, if somebody steals the car, it's not going to take them very long to get into the box if they have unlimited time with it. But in Springfield, most of the theft from cars comes from unlocked cars, and then every now and then, including on the parking lot where I work, um, where I park the car the most, there are a few smash and grabs where people smash a window out and grab what they can. And I actually saw a guy one time reaching into a car where somebody left the window rolled down enough where he could get his arm in it, and he was trying to steal a camera out of there. And then one of the young ladies at work, she had her window smashed, and they grabbed her purse. So it happens. That's something that's been weighing on me heavily, and I do have some valuables that I need to leave in the car when I go to work. So this will provide me with some ease of mind, and it costs it was less than $11 for it. So we'll see how that works. I drilled a couple of holes in the bottom of it. Now I just have to go drill some holes in the Explorer, run some bolts up through it, and it's a done deal. And then I need a get home bag. And again, I'm going to have a problem with where am I going to keep it, but I think I've found a way to keep it in there where it's just not out where somebody could see it. And hopefully if they don't see it, they won't grab it. And I don't want to really keep anything valuable in it. What I'm looking for here is something that would help get me back home in case the car broke down while I was up there, or this sounds far-fetched. I'll give you the scenario first. Maybe I'm up there and something happens to where I can't drive home. That sounds kind of apocalyptic. I'm not talking about a zombie apocalypse. I'm not talking about, a meteor hits the earth, or, I'm waiting on this earthquake to hit or something like that. But, there are some natural disasters that could happen. I have to drive over at least one fairly long bridge. Is that going to I don't know of any way around that. I'm sure there is some kind of a detour around it, but um, I could think of a couple of different reasons that it would be hard to drive back. And one of the reasons, probably the biggest reason, is lack of fuel. And in this day and age, that could never happen. Well, it was less than 10 years ago when I was living in Atlanta, and a refinery went out, or I think it was a refinery. Something happened at a refinery. Maybe it was a gas line or something. What's that called? Pipeline. But in Atlanta, middle of Atlanta, less than 10 years ago, you couldn't buy fuel, couldn't buy gas, couldn't buy diesel. Why not? The gas stations simply didn't have it because it wasn't being made in that area, so they couldn't get it. And, I remember gas was at like $5 a gallon. And if you wanted gas, you had to go wait at a gas station and just wait in line and hope that they got a shipment of it in. And it was that way for over a week. Um, so I'm looking at this like, sometimes when I drive into town, I don't just automatically go fill up. I go to work first. Well, if I go to work first, and something happens to the gas supply, I'm barely going to have enough gas to get back. And at that point, do I risk it? Um, I might have enough gas to get all the way to Jennifer and the kids,